Hey, watch fanatics, Ariel with WatchReport.com and Divers Watches Facebook group, now 22,000 members deep. So I've got a real treat for you guys. This is the Bulova Moon Watch replica, re-edition, some are calling it. Now, in this case, and for this review, replica is not a four-letter word. Now, we'll get into that here shortly. So, this is a watch that's made a huge splash, pun intended, because it's far from being a diver, which is usually, I guess, what I review. But this watch is gorgeous. It's made a big splash at Basel 2016, and ever since then, it's taking, I guess, our watch world by storm. It's such a beautiful watch, and we'll get into why it's so awesome and affordable here in just a second. So now in 1971, aboard Apollo 15, which was NASA's fourth manned mission to the moon, Dave Scott, right, the commander, was wearing a watch that was very similar. Now, how did that happen? Those are the parts that are open really for contention. So he was issued a Bulova like every he was issued a Speedmaster, Omega Speedmaster, like every other astronaut since 1965. But as the story goes, his Speedy broke. Now, his on-deck replacement was a Bulova very similar to this one, which actually did make it into space, which is much different than a lot of other watches that talk about the moon and whatnot and have really nothing to do with it. So that's the cool thing. This watch, or of course its inspiration, actually did make it into space. Now, was it a PR stunt? Was it something that was planned all along? Who knows? The truth of it is that it did make it into space years later. The original watch that Dave Scott wore sold for $1.6 million. And of course, at that point in time, Bulova has a monetary epiphany, if you will, and says, you know what, let's replicate the watch and see what we can do with it. Now, the cool thing about it is I think they could have gone a lot higher on their price point. And this watch, while I'll talk about the retail price a little later as well, is only $550. So let's get into the specs, right? Case diameter is 45 millimeters. Your case height is 13.5. Your lug width is 20 millimeters. Lug to lug is 48. Your bracelet on this particular model is, of course, a bracelet. Now, you have two options, and we'll talk about that here in just a second. The movement on it is a ultra high frequency quartz. Your crystal is sapphire with AR coating. And of course the price is in the mid 500s. Now, there's two versions of this watch. The bracelet model, which is the one that I chose to go with. Why? Because I'm a bracelet guy. And you have a more commemorative edition, if you will, or combo that's going to come with a leather kind of tropic-ish looking strap, and of course a nylon strap that is very similar to the one that Dave Scott wore over his astronaut suit. So whichever one you choose to go with, you really can't go wrong. One of the things that they do talk about is how the bracelet model, its lug pattern is a little different than the other one, so it's a little harder. If you don't, like me, I will always probably wear it on a bracelet, but if you want to squeeze a nylon strap in this particular model, it can become kind of difficult. So let's talk about the dial. Dial is obviously jet black. It's going to have your raised applied markers, and its handset, if you notice, all is a very bright white. Now, that's something that, at least for me, it wasn't lost, that it kind of resembles space, right? We look up into space because for whatever reason, we like to ponder about things and whatnot, but it's also very visually appealing. It's soft on our eyes. It's just gorgeous, and I think that's one of the reasons that the Speedmaster or the Bulova or whatnot, of course, makes it very legible with that deep set black, jet black dial, and then you have your white numerals, you have your white markers, and your complete handset is white as well. It's just very visually appealing and easy on the eyes. Now, you're going to have your sub dials, your sub registers. You're going to be located at the 3 and the 6 and the 9. Now, they have a sunburst effect because obviously it has some circles that do radiate from the center out. And so whenever, let me see if I can get it to do it. Let's look at that 9 register. You kind of see the sunburst effect on them. It is very gorgeous. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the watch around. We're going to talk about the actual operation of the sub dials. Again, you have your pushers here, which are very similar to the ones of the original, and I should say similar almost to the T. So I'm going to get the watch started, obviously, because we can't get the chrono started if we don't start the watch. You'll notice the 6 o'clock sub dial or the sub register is going. So I'll start the chrono by pushing the 2 o'clock pusher down and give it a couple chances here for you guys to check it out. A couple seconds. So the one that starts it also is the same one that stops it. The one located, let's just say at the 4 o'clock position, because remember they do kind of run the entire length of the right side of the case, less the crown, which is not a screw down, is going to reset it. And there's the reset. It has a very, very nice reset. Again, I'm going to start it again. You're going to have a movement that looks very automatic-ish, if you will, but this is a quartz movement after all. Now it is 8 times. It's going to be 8 times faster than just a regular quartz movement, giving it that that look that you see right there. I'm going to stop it. Reset. It's going to have a really tall tachymeter ring, which is for speed and distance. It's going to give it a real nice, I guess, 3-dimensional look to the dial. You're going to have your sub registers, which are a step below the dial as well. And if you notice the date aperture there at the 4.5, between the 4 and 5 marker, that also is gives it another really nice drop to that dial, and again, depth. Crystal is sapphire AR coated. Now a lot of people talk about how this particular crystal would probably take some dings to it because of the fact that it is exposed. But here's the deal: if you're really hard on your watches every time, no matter the situation, this probably may not be the watch for you. Now, if you're like me, who can take a beater and put it on and go to the beach with it and go to a pool and whatnot, that's what you want. This is not a beater for me. Now, while it has a very economical price at $550, I think it's a watch that I love to wear. I don't classify it a beater, so I treat it real well. I treat it with kid gloves. And, you know, can I hit it against a corner? Of course, that could always happen, but it's not a watch that I'm going to abuse. If you are a person that wears your watches real hard, that might be something to consider whenever you're making your purchase. Now, as far as the case, 13.5, you'll notice, again, it is tiered. This includes from, obviously, the bottom of the case all the way up to the top of the crystal, but it's going to tear down if you notice. So, really nice look to it. Now, the bracelet is a brushed bracelet versus a satin case. That is another point of contention. I do not think it's a big deal. Truthfully, I would have never noticed had nobody told me, but look what a beautiful watch that is, guys. Let me pull it back here. It's absolutely gorgeous. And again, I think that the mixing of materials, right? I mean, it's done on Rolexes, it's done on Omegas, it's done on Breitlings and a whole bunch of other really, really nice brands. That doesn't bother me at all. In fact, it's kind of something that I've come to look forward to at a price point that is in excess of $1,000 to $1,500. Again, this watch is, you know, 1/3 of that. So very nice brush bracelet, satin case. You're gonna have your high polish pushers and a high polish crown as well. It is, if you notice, it's not screw down. So of course, that adds to that 50 meters of water, or only 50 meters of water resistance. Case back on it is what everybody's talking about. Of course, it gives you all that information about the Apollo 15, the dates of when this watch actually was in space and whatnot. So really nice. Bracelet is kind of presidential-ish, if you will. It's got minimal branding right there. Again, I call it either that's how they wanted it, or again, it was just kind of an afterthought. Some people say that the bracelet was not made for this actual watch, hence the difference of the case material, or should I say case finish, because the material of the case is 316L, no matter what, which is the same as the bracelet. It's got a really nice butterfly clasp on it. Very, very comfortable to wear. Again, if you get the second version of this watch, it has that, it's not going to come with the bracelet. It's going to come with that commemorative nylon strap, kind of like the one he wore. And it's also going to come with a black, leatherish, tropic-looking strap. So, super nice watch. Again, guys, it's so comfortable. It's going to have that that movement that everybody's talking about. It was formerly known as the precisionist movement. Now it's their ultra high frequency quartz. It gives it a real nice sweep to the chrono functions. So very, very nice. Now, here's the thing with this entire package, this entire watch. I think that Bulova swung for the fence early on. And, you know, they really took that saying, and I write it in my review, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. I think it's the new Bulova that's coming out. They got a lot of cool models on deck. Now, as far as the term replica, they use it over and over and over. Now, here's what I wrote about it. So the replica usually has, the word replica usually has a really negative undertone as it's intellectual theft. But in this case, Bulova is very purposeful, in how they continue to describe this watch, because it's a copy or reproduction of a work of art, right? Produced by the maker of the original or under his or her supervision. Now, of course, that's not a subliminal message, but it does kind of let you know that the Bulova of today, it transcends just some ordinary reissue, and that this was made by Bulova itself, and that it considered its original masterpiece, and hopefully I think this will become one as well. So anyways, guys, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please drop them in the comments. If you have this watch, let me know what you think of it. I'll definitely read all your comments and try to get to them. So this is Ariel signing off.